And then
grab your wine. It's time for Rosé All Day and Julie's a Mess, where we talk about current events and living in an intersex life. And now, here's Julie.
hi, everybody. I know you can't just see me just yet, but I like throwing this up to let you know what this week's episode is about. Polly Wants a Cracker. We're going to get into that and all things Polly with our beautiful co-host, Rebecca, in just a few minutes. But let's show you both of us. Here we are. Hi. Hi, Rebecca. I think it's so funny. I totally usually dress up for these things, and you would think that I would totally be dressed up and all glam tonight because what? It is our 5th episode of Optimistic in Orlando. However, my glow should be enough. This afterglow should be enough.
The afterglow is really working for you.
Afterglow, 2.5 hours this morning. I am I'm feeling it. I'm loving it. And then I put on my fun sweatshirt that says "Fun Fact, I don't care," and because that was totally my MO after marathon sex this morning. We'll say it. Talk about everything else on the show. And so, real fast before we get into it, my house wine. Y'all know me. You've been following me for a while, but tonight I'm doing my house wine, and that is good old Dr. Pepper. It's not alcoholic, but like I said, I had a long day and I'm kind of exhausted. And if I had alcohol right now, it would probably make me fall asleep during this podcast. And Rebecca is drinking her trusty old favorite as well. 14 Hands Rosé Bubbles. So that's what we are drinking throughout the show. Remember, this is a live streaming podcast, so you can actually join us on YouTube on Just Julie, and you can join in and talk to us as we go, as we talk about stuff, and we try and flesh it out week to week about what we're going to talk about the next week. So if you have an interest in that, you can definitely come in and put your 2 cents in. We have a lot to talk about this episode, our fifth episode already. What is that about?
It's very exciting. We've already got a lot of great stories, I feel like, but I feel like we also have so many more to go.
Mm-hmm.
And your weeks are stacking. You've got so many updates this week.
Yes, and ironically enough, they're not necessarily from people that I've met online, which is crazy. That's a little crazy for me. You the same. You've been meeting people you've been meeting people that you've met in real time, not online. So it's just kind of funny to me. I mean, we're still meeting people online. We're still doing that. And of course, that's what this show is about. But a lot of interest offline as well.
It's the manifestation, like I keep saying. You've got great energy, open energy going on. You know what you're about. And so it happens in real life now, too. That's my theory.
It is crazy. It's crazy. Okay, so tonight, guys, we're talking about in this 5th episode, for those of you that are listening out in podcast land, and then for watching us in the show, we are talking about poly relationships. We titled this aptly, Polly Wants a Cracker. I can't quit looking at my cheekbones because I threw my blush on really fast and it just looks like hard and fast on one side. And I'm like, 1980s would like their blush back, Julie. Okay, so tonight's episode is Polly Wants a Cracker, the world of sharing. Look, let's preface it by saying no judgments here. We're not going to yuck anybody's yum. That's not what this show's about. And for some people, it absolutely works. For some people, it absolutely works. For some people, I think they want it to work. But I've heard recently, going into a poly, all the couples or all the people going in have to have a really clean slate and know exactly where they stand going into it, or it can get very hairy and messy. But I'm not really the pro on it. We're going to resort over here to Rebecca, and she's going to fill us in about what it is and maybe why she feels it works or doesn't work. I think she even has a story for us. Take it away, Rebecca.
All righty. So a little bit of background on my understanding of poly. I lived in LA for 8 years and got very sort of involved in the sex positive scene and things like that. And I was introduced to the book, The Ethical Slut, at that time, which is very interesting. It talks about all sorts of different relationships you can have. And also, it's a great read if you are monogamous, because it also talks about lots of different ways of communicating what you might want out of a partner. Okay. Now, that word, ethical slut, seems to have been co-opted by fuck people on Tinder, and they're calling it ethical non-monogamy, right? Now, people who are actually part of the OG official poly communities, who know what they're doing, who have a great poly family, who are good at actual ethical non-monogamy, have a lot of rules and systems, better communications than most relationships that you'll see that are monogamous. They are absolutely fantastic. However, there are a lot of people out there right now that I call unlicensed poly, which is just basically like, I'm gonna just date around, fuck around, sleep with someone who's not my wife, and we're just gonna call it ethical non-monogamy because most people know about it in the picture. I do feel like it is more rare that you'll have someone who's actually lying about the fact that they're in an open thing. But what's happening is I think there's a lot more open situationships where people aren't having the type of deep communication that you need for a genuine poly connection. And they're just sort of willy-nilly throwing spaghetti against the wall. And this is really dangerous stuff to mess with. It's kind of like if you're into any types of euphemism here, power play, or any of the other things that are out there, it can go really badly wrong if you're unlicensed, quote unquote. And I don't mean like an official license. I just mean, you know how this is supposed to work. You know how, what kind of options are out there for you. So anyway, I actually have a very good friend of mine who recently, out here in the Savannah scene, which there's a joke that there's a ton of swingers out here, which is probably true in an underground world that I have not yet experienced. I don't know if I will. But this friend of mine was, had never kind of done the poly thing before and was approached by a couple. And at first glance, it seemed like they really had their shit together. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I can receive love from both of these people. There's one person who's going to be kind of like the primary interest. So it's so this is a bisexual woman. So she was going to be very, very close with the woman in the relationship, and the woman and the husband were supposed to be communicative about it. And there was like texting with both of them, and then there was texting with one of them. And then it sort of became clear over time that this couple, like the woman who was exploring that she was supposed to be with, didn't actually want to be poly, but had kind of felt pressured into it by her other partner who had another partner. So she was kind of like, well, if you have one, I'll have one. And then my friend is getting pulled in as this like extra fill-in. And so it became very messy because the problems that the original partners, the primary partners, which is one format of a poly relationship. You have primary partners, and then they have other people. So you might have a husband and wife with girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever. Sometimes you have a poly arrangement where everybody's equal. You have all sorts of different vibes, but the most common is primary partners with other people. So anyway, one primary partner was having the time of their lives. The other primary partner might have felt a little bit lonely or whatever, trying to get on board. But if the primary relationship is not working, the side relationships are not going to work. So this ended up being kind of a negative, dramatic situation for her. And what I've noticed in any kind of poly adjacent type scenarios I've been in is that you can have a lot of love all at the same time. But that also means you can have a lot of drama all at the same time. And let's say you're dating 3 people and they all drop out in the same month. Now you have 3 equal, large, absolute heartbreaks to go through. So this is just, it's really big, potent stuff. And because of that, you can have the time of your life, but most of the time, it's going to be a flaming shit show.
And I had heard actually, and you're talking about it, and I'm like, it sounds like Dungeons and Dragons. Like, it on some level, I guess it could be really interesting, right? We're talking about how you could have all the right, and I actually know somebody that was told, you know, would you rather be loved by one person, or would you rather go through life being loved by multiple people? And I thought, I mean, it still depends on, I don't know. There's so many factors that go into it. And it seems like it's not as easy as everybody thinks it's going to be. It seems like it might even add more stress, which the whole purpose of sex for me is to get rid of my stress, not add to it. I don't know. It's interesting.
It is. And it's interesting the different types of dynamics that people have. But I will say the one that is a red flag, if we're using the term red flag for something we think might work, but isn't going to work in that way, is when it's like we're trying to spice up our marriage, or when it's sort of like there's no clear rules about who's who, but the profile that you're looking at online is kind of like, well, I'm involved with various people and none of them are committed, but I'm just allowed to do that. And that can work okay for a little while until anyone gets attached to anyone.
But that, I mean, on some level, and I know the more you see it popping up on online dating, because you and I come across it a lot. We come across it a lot. On some level, I feel like it's just a pass to say to your husband or wife or spouse, let's cheat.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have to call it cheating. We can call it ethically non-monogamous. And then you get a lot of people that are like, well, that's how the world's supposed to be anyway, that marriage is a construct of religion and society, and that we're all supposed to be running around just having a free-for-all. I mean, you've got so many different levels, right? And so what we want to know from the people that are listening, what are your takes on poly? Does it work for you? Maybe you're in a poly relationship and you'd like to let Rebecca and I know that it absolutely 100% and that you're all in and your partner's all in. We'd love to hear from you. And you can comment on this video on YouTube. You can write us at justjuleigh.com and let us know that you heard the podcast and what your thoughts are on it. And we are definitely interested in hearing that and finding out what your feedback is. The other big joke that a lot of people say through online dating, and especially all of these are we dating the same guy type apps that we've talked about before on Facebook and everything else, is Does your partner know that you're single?
Yeah.
That's always a good one, right? When someone does your partner know you're in a poly relationship, right? Because I think again, people use that as an excuse or a license to cheat. That's me personally, and that may be really off basis and off color to say, but we're all, aching to our own opinions, and yeah, I don't know.
But you come up with the question though of what happens if you're in a marriage where both people are like, hey, you know what? I would be willing to sleep with another person. I would be willing to let you sleep with another person and I sleep with another person. How are we going to go about this? Right? Like, let's think about maybe one of our audience members is like, I want to open up my marriage, but I don't know how to do it without being this like free for all, spaghetti against the wall, impending disaster. And I think that I would suggest reading The Ethical Slut or some of these other books that are from licensed, quote unquote, poly communities. And then also really figuring out when you imagine you're sitting home alone and your partner's out and they might be with someone else in some context, are you okay with them if you're sitting at home drinking your wine, trying to watch a show, not think about it? If they're making out with someone, does that make you feel icky inside? If they're having intercourse with someone, does it make you feel icky inside? If they're emotionally connecting, and just figuring out what are the layers. Like, a lot of things that I think tend to work are when there's no real emotional relationship and they have a shared experience. This is the most typical, I would say, is a man with a bisexual woman. They both hook up in a threesome with a girl. And then maybe they have that as their unicorn that everybody's looking for, that comes in once in a while whenever they want to have a fun time.
Yeah. So I was going to say a lot of, I'm right in the middle of a huge gay community here in Orlando. And a lot of my friends are gay and are gay in gay relationships. And I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day about how there is this kind of unspoken philosophy that guys get married down here, and then within like the first 2 years, they start to play together. And then they'll have somebody come into the home and play with them sexually, right? And then eventually it moves into we're in an open relationship. It's almost like it goes from never really wanting to be poly, but they go from being together and married to open to we stay married, but we play with whatever we want to play separately. And we were talking about that, and I said, that's the trajectory for most gay couples, right? And he'd even said, yeah, we went to a party recently, and some of our friends were like, so y'all are thinking about being open? And the guy said, well, and then the friend said, well, what stage are y'all at? What stage are y'all at? And when they said, well, we just started kind of allowing a unicorn to come in and play, or somebody come in and play, they were like, oh, you're at the first stage. We'll talk to you in another 8 months when y'all are ready to play, and I thought, that's the groundwork for the philosophy for every gay it's interesting all the different ways that
well, and it's interesting too, because if you think of that from the perspective of it going well, which I know that it often actually does a lot of times work for gay male couples. And I think a lot of that probably also has to do with like society's pressures on like women and straight relationships and whatever, just weighs it down that much more. But if you think of it from the beneficial perspective, why does it go on that trajectory? And I think it's because in that phase where you're sharing an experience, you're developing trust that we share with this other person, or we both experience another person, and then we come back together again and we cuddle, and the last dance is for us. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're still close. We're still okay. So then what happens if you go out with someone else and then you come back and you either talk to me about it or not, and we still feel close. And then it gets more and more open, and you realize that it didn't undermine the basis of your relationship, and it kind of tests the relationship. But that only works in certain relationships, especially where you really do have that trust and that loyalty.
Well, and it's funny, I get a lot of, even with guys that I meet for dates, one of the first things they'll ask sometimes is, are we gonna, if things work out for us, are we gonna allow thirds to come in? And I actually said to somebody recently, I said, I want to know that I am locked and loaded. Like, I want to know that I'm locked in for at least a year to 2 years before we even invite a third in. But I'm open to it, you know, but there would definitely be parameters for that. And, but I'm open to it. It's just, I think every relationship, that's where communication and trust come in. And that's where communication is key. And you kind of say, I'm open to it, but these are my boundaries for this to work. And then your partner says, these are my boundaries for this to work. And if you can agree on the boundaries and you can agree on the situation, then move forward cautiously. And if, you know, and you might have a wonderful time, right? And clearly, if there are these massive swinger communities and massive poly communities around the world, clearly it does work for some people.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I would say sort of like a maybe a note to the audience for anyone who is really monogamous, something that I think is a really good learning from all of this, like what we're talking about with this communication and whatever. And you're saying like, kind of like, what are your boundaries? What are my boundaries? What I am learning through some experiences I'm having is there are relationships, kinks, communities, poly, whatever, where you practice all these kinds of crazy, like, let's say it's, imagine if it was your house and you're like, there's shoes off in my house. We have only wine in the fridge. We have all these things. I have a very, very specific house. It's very, very particular. And this is how it's going to go. And in these kinds of non-traditional relationships, there's so much room for that because, of course, it's a build your own Sunday, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But in traditional relationships, I think people forget that they also have that opportunity. You could literally be a person that's like, I only want to go out with you if I can pay for everything. And also, I only want to go out with you if we always like have Jello before we have sex. And also, I only want to go out with you. And like, you're allowed to do that. You can do that. There might be a person for you that wants to do that. But like, you are allowed to have really specific preferences.
Yeah.
You just have to deal with the consequences. You might not find someone. But I think that's a really great takeaway that I've taken from sort of being exposed to these things and playing around with things, because there's actually a lot of freedom in traditional relationships that we don't think of, that we can learn from some of these practices.
I love what you just said. So I just made a banner for it. That's what I was doing. Build your own Sunday, right? Because that's what you're doing. It's a kind of a build your own Sunday moment. And I think that's, look, I think in some ways that's really cool that we are getting to a place in society where it is not so cut and dry, where it is not, you're going to grow up and you're going to meet a guy and you're going to marry him and that's the end of it. And you're going to live together for 70 years and have umpteen children and go to church on Sundays, you know, and it's, things are absolutely evolving. And I think that's great. But, you know, you do seem to meet a lot of couples these days that are like, we're open. And I have to be honest, the first time I heard or saw on a dating app, ethically non-monogamous, ENM, I didn't know what it was. And you wouldn't if you didn't practice it. And I literally thought it was the personality test that
Enneagram or something.
I literally thought it was like an anagram for like these personality tests. And I was like, isn't there supposed to be a fourth letter somewhere? And then this guy explained it to me and I was like, ethically, how is it ethical to be non-monogamous? I'm like, I understand ethical, non-GMO, like byproducts of chicken. And I was like, what it doesn't seem ethical at all to be non-monogamous. But then the more you kind of read about it and get to know people and see how it works for people, you go, oh, okay, I get it. I don't know if it's for me, but I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are moving on. I do want to say hi to Ron and Mary Bell, who are both in here, and they made a point of saying hello to us while we were talking about polyamorism, right? No.
Polyamory. Are you sure that Dr. Pepper's not spiked?
It might be. You know what it is? My lower denture plate is not glued in. My upper plate is, because they tend to always stay like when you put glue in. But because of earlier activities, the glue is loosened on my lower plate. And so as I talk, it's flipping up and down. And I'm like, oh, that felt awkward. And, just don't make me laugh or sneeze, and maybe the plate will stay in. But that's why it's making me stutter. And I'm like, what? Polly wants a cracker. Okay, so we are moving on. What would you like to talk about next, Miss Rebecca?
Well, I think people were probably on the edge of their seats to hear about these dates that you had lined up this last week. And in particular, I want to hear about, and guys, I have not heard about these offline, the guy that you had lunch with that you were really excited about, who had reached out, or I don't know if it was lunch, but
it was dinner. It was the Wednesday date. It was the Wednesday date that I was super excited
about. I also want to hear about this person that did, what is it, DoorDash?
Okay, so let's talk about the DoorDashing date first. It never happened. So DoorDasher, to catch everybody up to speed, he said that he was going to help me DoorDash as I was in between jobs, and he wanted to do it with me. And I thought it was very smart on his part that he wanted to be trapped in a vehicle with me, listening to his kind of music. It was not smart on my part, but I thought he's trying to get to know me. Anyway, I did. Here's the thing. I was not really attracted to him when I saw pictures of him, but he was sweet. And I thought, well, he's being nice and he's trying to help me figure out how to DoorDash, and he's pretty much going to do most of the work, and I'm just going to collect the benefits. And I didn't want to be mean to him, and we'd already canceled a couple of times. So he had gone to drop one of his family members off at like an airport or something, and was coming back to get me. And I'd gotten up that morning and I'd gotten ready and I'd made sure all my stuff was ready for DoorDashing. And I'm waiting, and about 30 minutes before we were supposed to meet, he was like, I'm on my way. Traffic's really bad. And I was like, well, go around it. I don't like to be made to wait. I was being really bratty, but I was kidding, because it just seemed to take so much to get him just to come over to DoorDash. And then nothing. And then he blocked me on. Now, he says he didn't block me. His whole thing was, I didn't block you. I didn't block you. But ladies are not dumb, gentlemen. We know if you have an iOS iPhone and it goes from one color to another color, we've been blocked. It's the same as being put on red. So that happened on his iOS iPhone. And then he blocked me on Snapchat. But what was weird, Rebecca, is he then purchased a subscription to follow me on another app that we're not going to mention.
What?
And I thought, huh? And then I turned to my roommate and I was like, what is that about? Like, you block me on text and you block me on Snapchat, but then you follow me on an app where you have to pay a subscription fee?
Okay.
So there's more. I know you're getting excited.
I have so many feelings.
So 2 days ago, he reached out and said, oh, my phone got cut off and I had to wait for my aunt to pay it. And I would still like another chance. And I said, how many chances do you think you get? I gave you 2 and you bumbled them both. I said, this isn't baseball. How many chances do you think you get with me? I know my worth. You're not even in that ballpark. And he was like, well, I think I should get another one. And so then he added me back on Snapchat after I blocked him to try and talk to me again. And after I rejected him on that other platform, because I was like, I don't need your $8 that badly, right? And so, and then another guy I was talking to on Snapchat was like, what's going on? And I told him, and he was like, send me his info. I'll go tell him to back off. And I was like, I don't need people. This is Snapchat. I don't need like drama getting fought on Snapchat for me. But I told him, I was like, you got a lot of growing up to do, and I'm not playing that game, and bye. I'll figure out how to DoorDash on my own.
Okay. I have so many feelings. The vacuum cleaner from my neighbor is actually a really great backdrop to how I'm feeling. I think, okay, answer me this. We're going to do detective time. Did he, on the night of sometime this week, have any kinds of conversation with you about what you would or would not do with him sexually? And then was he declined on any of those potential questions?
He did keep like going, oh, can I kiss you? Oh, when we go out, can I do this? And I just kept going, we're door dashing, because I knew I didn't like him like that. Mm-hmm. And so I kept trying to keep him in the friend zone. Mm-hmm. But I also, because of everything we talked about on this podcast, I was also trying to be like open to, well, if you meet him and you DoorDash and he's a gentleman.
Right. So I'm wondering then, with that in mind, do you think that he picked up on the fact that he might be getting friend zoned and DoorDashed, and that he was like, oh, this has happened to me before, because I am that guy that offers all kinds of stuff that's not going to pay off for me at all, just for the chance of being in a car with a woman. So I've been here before. And he then got salty, had a crime of passion, deleted you from all this stuff, and then later was like, oh, that wasn't very mature. That's not a good look. Maybe I should come crawling back because that's attractive. So anyway, I think, better off without him.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think you did anything wrong by staying open to him. I think that was a great idea. I think this is a great practice. I think it's always great to have a positive exchange of energy with people, even if you're not ultimately going to end up with them. Have a nice date, have a nice experience. It adds to this manifestation energy, all of that. So you did nothing wrong, but he probably was like, I have boundaries. This is not going to be for me. I doubt she's going to end up liking me. And then the problem is he got salty and he was not classy. And, goodbye. Let's DoorDash you out of here.
Yeah. And that's what happened. Okay. So now let's talk about the good date that we're all like excited about. Let's talk about the good date. So Wednesday, I was super excited about Wednesday's date. It did not, it lived up to its expectations 100%. So we had never talked about this guy before because he has not been a part of the Hive and he has never been an option on the Hive. So he was somebody that I'd met a couple of, almost a half a year ago, here when I'd come to Orlando for a different event to visit other people. And a friend of mine had said, hey, you may really like each other. Y'all should go out. And we went drinking the first time we ever met. And we were both so intoxicated that we went back to his house And I fell asleep on the couch, and he ended up going upstairs and falling asleep upstairs. And we never, and we just laugh about it. And he was like, I would have cuddled with you, but there was not enough room on the couch. And I was like, well, that's cute, because, you know, it just gave me good vibes that you weren't like a creeper. And then, so Wednesday, we went out, and he wanted to go try this new restaurant in Orlando that he'd heard a lot about. And it was a Wednesday, and we were both shocked that it was so popular. They had like a 45-minute wait on a Wednesday. And he was like, what? And so we ended up going to Longhorn Steakhouse. And I was laughing because I told my roommate, Manny, I said, one thing guys, you know, guys get so flustered and frustrated because they want to make the first date so perfect and kind of throw all their fireworks out at the finale, you know, during the show and during the finale. And then it kind of, you're like, what do I do now? But that's kind of the attitude guys have, like all in, right? And I had shared with them, I was like, I don't care where we eat. A girl is never going to go hungry. She's never going to go hungry. My whole philosophy is I don't like passive men. So like if I was in a relationship and the guy came home and said, hey, I want to go out to dinner tonight, I'm really craving snow crab. Odds are he's going to know exactly where he wants to go to get snow crab. He's been thinking about it all day. He likes to go to this particular place. So go to that place. I may not want snow crab that night, but I'm not going to starve. Women will find something to eat. We're going to find something to eat on that menu. But then I told Manny he really wanted a steak. And so we go to Longhorn, and I opened up the menu, and it was all steak.
Literally?
Like every entree on their menu was steak.
No braised chicken, nothing. No Caesar salad?
The only option was they had a pasta dish with steak. You obviously have to get the steak on it. And then they had salmon. And I was like, well,
a salmon steak.
I guess I'm doing salmon, which I like salmon. But I kind of was like, in that moment, I was like, okay, Julie, like that threw your theory out the window, because there are going to be women that don't like salmon either. Do you know what I mean? They're going to be like, I guess I'm having my paper napkin for dinner. So, but it was a great dinner. Now, during the dinner, I was enthralled by what now, obviously, because I've said I'm not going to talk about certain people that I'm having a good go with on the podcast, but we need the, you know, content on the table. We haven't given him a nickname. My roommate calls him the con artist, but not because he's a con artist. He works in the con industry. So when you think of all these cons around the world, like
Comic-Con
cons and anime cons and costume cons, he works somewhere in the industry. So my roommate nicknamed him, said, oh, for your show, you can call him the con artist. And I was like, that makes him sound so bad. But I was so enthralled with what he does that I couldn't quit asking him questions during dinner about him, which he answered all of them. And then it would spin off into other great conversations for us. But I remember coming home thinking, he doesn't really know any more about me than he did before the date, because I just kept asking about his job and what's he do. And,
you know, I'm of two minds about that kind of experience. One is, it shows a lot of times I hear friends talk about like, oh, he says he likes me because of this, and oh, he likes this and that, and he's like flattering the person. And I'm like, do you like him? Like, what admirable qualities does this person have? Like, can you describe to me why you like this asshole? And then, so I think it's a huge plus that you're like actually really into him as a person and what he's doing and all of that. But I also feel like on the opposite side of that, if you had not been the one leading, like all the questions and like the conversation and hadn't spun off outside of him and he was driving the conversation about him, that would not be great. But I think we're gonna need a date too. We all need a date
I
too.
mean, yeah. So he is actually leaving town. He's leaving town this week. Actually, I think he leaves town like Wednesday or Thursday because he wants a second date. And I said, well, is it going to happen before you leave? And he went, maybe. This will be interesting because I'm old school in the sense that I did talk to him the next morning. We chatted and I had said, thank you for last night. It was wonderful. Thank you. And he said, you're welcome. I had a good time too. So from there, I would think, I don't know the rules anymore, but my old school mind is thinking, let him reach back out to you for this second date, right? And that's how you know he's really interested. And I haven't heard from him since last Thursday. And he leaves Thursday to go to work. And then we were both talking about how my October, I mean, literally with Pride and my screening and riding in the parade and going to the Florida Equality Gala and like all the Halloween parties I've been invited to. I mean, my month is stuck. And then hopefully I'll start working in November. And then he's got stuff to do through the holidays. So I thought this second date may not happen until January. So I don't know.
It gives us something to simmer on and be excited on, and then rack up plenty of stories in the meantime, and then you end up married to him. No, that's a toxic lady talk, trying to convince each other we're gonna end up in happy endings right away.
Well, and then I know you're super excited. First, we're gonna go back real fast to the DoorDash because Maribel made a comment in chat, and it made me just laugh. So we're going to read it. We're going to post it in the chat in the podcast. And Rebecca says, Maribel, Brooklyn Miss says, he did a paid subscription to your Oh Hell No freak. That's just weird. He friend zoned himself.
Preach.
And then she put, he literally made himself a paid fanboy. So
too good.
We think that's good. Thank you, Brooklyn Miss and Maribel, for that. And then, so the other thing you're really excited about, right? Because, Wednesday was a great date, took me through the weekend, and then I ended up meeting somebody else this weekend who we didn't.
Oh, got a hair flip, guys.
What? Is that your? We did not go on a date. Okay. So we went a little backwards, right?
Rendezvous.
But we did have breakfast of sorts this morning, and then spent about 2-3 hours together today. And then when we were parting, I told him, I said, I have a podcast tonight. And I said, I think you'll find it really funny because it's called Optimistic in Orlando. And it's about the pitfalls of online dating. And he started laughing. And I said, even though that's not where we met each other. And then I don't have a nickname for him. I just really like him. And he said, well, we have to do this again for sure. And I said, yeah. And maybe we throw coffee or dinner into it. So it actually feels like a date. And he said, I'm here for that. He goes, I'm here for that.
Oh, I like that.
So it's been a really good week.
Yeah.
Within my adult fun time zones. And even in my, my dating, but it's weird because we're going to talk about gutter swipes. A lot of them fell out of sync this week and didn't respond. A lot of the people we reached out to even from last week's picks fell off the grid and didn't respond. I think it's funny because when things are popping for me online that we pick for the show, things are not popping for me offline. And then when things are popping for me offline, people online are just kind of falling off on their own. So
is it possible that in this whole energy theory I have, that the offline is raising your vibration and the online people are like, I can't keep up. I can't keep up with this energy she's got going on, this halo around her. I'm just going to see myself out. Exactly.
Oh, and let me tell you, ladies out there that are going through some deep shit, for those of you that are listening to this podcast, get some lady time in your, I don't mean don't stick your feet in the lady pool unless that's what you want. But what I was saying is I spent some girlfriend time yesterday with a friend of mine dyeing my dress for Pride Parade because my dress came in and it was not the right shade or color and I didn't have time to return it. And it was like a bathing suit material. So I asked a friend if she could help me dye it. And so I went over to her house. It was about 30 minutes away. And we like laughed and giggled and talked about guys and gossiped and ran out and got, McDonald's. And then we dyed this dress. It's perfect. It's the perfect color now. It looks great. But that also helps, and so my point is, when you are going through dating woes, when you are going through not finding your partner, when you are going through all the things that like online dating and life throws at you, not only is self-care and self-love important, but so is relying on your friends to get you out of that funk, right? To get you sidetracked onto something else. And so Xander and I had so much fun yesterday, just kind of, and if he ever sees this or watches this, thank you for helping me with my dress. And he altered a dress for me for Christmas, made it shorter. So I have that for the Christmas holiday season. And he's going to help me with my gala dress because I have to figure out something for the back because it won't zip all the way up over my back fat. So,
well, Julie, unfortunately, we're going to have to make you wear the thing that you dyed yesterday in our next episode.
Yeah, or maybe I will. Maybe I'll wear it in my neck. I'll just sit here and be like, hey. It actually turned out really good. And then, but that's important. Remember that you have people in your life that it is okay to step away from all the other bullshit to kind of regenerate your energy and to kind of, that's okay. All right. So do we want to talk about some gutter swipes?
Yes.
What are you shaking over there?
My phone. I'm so excited.
I know.
Speaking of friends, my very best friend in the whole world is out in the other room. She's visiting me this weekend, and she has certainly raised my vibration. So if you guys are thinking I'm in a good mood, that's why.
That is why. So we are going into our weekly gutter swipes gas station chocolate. Let me tell you, Julie had premium chocolate this morning. She had premium Lindor chocolate truffle balls. Goodness, today. What? We're not talking about that. Pop Rocks. If you know, you know. Okay, so we are diving into the Hive. We actually have some really great gutter swipes this week, and we're going to talk about those right now. Two of them, because of how wonderful my week has been going, I missed out on, and so they went dormant. So we had to retake their stingers, and so we're gonna do this together and figure out what I say to them, and maybe Rebecca's guidance as a writer and editor this week. Usually she lets me do it on my own. Sometimes I think it works in my favor. Sometimes I don't think it does. Now, remember, the thing with gutter swiping is these are guys that Rebecca knows 100% I would lay down with, right? I totally would. Like, they are my type. They are what I think my type is, right? Which we've already learned in 5 episodes. May not be my type, but these are guys that she knows 100% I would be into. But then the reason they are gutter swipes is because they often take themselves into the gutter within the first couple of sentences they utter back to you. And what we mean by that is they often will fall off the cliff, right? We talk about them driving right off the cliff. They take that car and just drive it right into no land or no zone. And sometimes she likes to say this, the first couple of pictures you see of them is really attractive. And then you hit the giveaway photo at the end where you're like, oh no, they are really into themselves. We talked about red flags last week. And so these are gutter swipes. And again, to protect them, we don't necessarily tell you their real name. We do describe them to you. This is somebody that fell off the radar last week, Rebecca. In his first picture, he's
Wait, you gotta tell me which one to click on.
Ice cream guy.
Okay, he's at the, oh, there he is. There he is. Boom.
Okay, so in his first picture, he is in a really like crisp dress shirt and slacks. So that makes me think that he is in business. And he says he's a CEO, so that would merit that. And he is eating an ice cream, but it's literally like the last piece of the cone. So it's that pointy part. And he's just kind of, and then he's got short hair on the side and like kind of a pompadour kind of top. Really pretty eyes. He's 37. He says he enjoys being active, talking, taking the boat out, blah, blah, blah. Not here for games, travel for work, no pen pals. That's my nephew. No hookups. If you don't look like your pics, you're buying drinks until you do. Also, and then it says, relax, Karen. That's a joke. Let me tell you, I'm all about originality in dating profiles because so many guys will put the exact same thing. Now, I think it is a huge misnomer when you hear, if you don't look like your pics, you're buying my drinks until you do. I think going into that, like we already know he's a gutter swipe, but I think even going into that, that is very like toxic.
Toxic masculinity. Very toxic.
Because they're saying, well, I don't think you're going to, I've dated too many girls that don't look like themselves, right? Or that show up. And we hear horror stories all the time about girls that show up and are really excited about a date and then walk into a bar and the guy ghosts.
He's not the guy. Oh, yeah.
Or
but it's like, are you already like hating on women? And then you're also expressing to us that your only goal was to find someone attractive enough to bone. And that if we are going to be winning on personality, then you're actually still willing to stick it out until you're ready to bone. It's just so toxic. And then, relax, Karen. Anyway.
Right. Relax, Karen. It's a joke. And then, of course, his second photo is him taking a gym selfie.
Classic.
Although, if you look at his first photo, he looks somewhat thin and in great shape. But if you look at his second photo where he's looking straight on, he looks like he's 50 and in the gym.
Yes. And he has a Superman shirt on.
In the third photo, he's with a friend and they just look like douchebags. The fourth photo is him laying, Rebecca's doing it right now. She's doing that pose right now. Him laying across the front of a boat with some kind of skinny, it's probably a White Claw, let's be honest. But it's a skinny, tall drink. You can tell it's not like a 40.
In a koozie.
In a koozie.
And he's got a something bod just right out there.
Yeah. And the last photo is him taking another selfie in his house.
Oh my God, is that his cock?
Yeah, that's his cock. In a Tabasco t-shirt. I mean, that's probably what gets him the ladies.
That's what gets it. It's the clincher. Then he has a photo raising a child up like the Lion King in a pool.
In a pool.
Yeah. I mean, lest we go on.
Am I reaching out to him? Because usually we reach out in hopes that
we want to see how he reveals himself. All right. I think with this one, we should take the tactic of like going real genuine and seeing how terrible he is.
So what are we writing?
Okay. All right. Question game. Choose your question. Which emoji describes your current mood? What's a genuine cause that's close to your heart? Oh, I would like to see if he can muster a response to that. What's your impression of me from my profile? Oh, that's going to get him right away. Because he's already a fucking woman hater. Sorry.
Yeah.
So you want to do it? Are you willing to go through that? We don't know what he's going to do. Should we keep going?
I mean, because, my straightaway would be going right in and saying, what do I think about you from your profile? That you're a dick. But
then what is he going to be spewing hateful language about a woman because that's all he's looking to do in the world?
Maybe.
All right. Let's see. What's one wrong in the world that you'd like to write? And then you can be like, you. Actually, no, because you don't want to.
Toxic masculinity.
There we go. Yeah. Do you want to do that one?
Yeah, do that one.
Safer. Okay. So we're gonna send the.
This is what I think is going to happen. We're going to send that, and my answer is going to be toxic masculinity, and then he's going to write back, and he'll probably be like, "What's that?"
You mean you don't get your 10% kickback from that cause, sir?
Did you pick it?
I did. He's gone. He's in the mix now. Let's move on to the next. Oh, we got 3 minutes left, Julie, or are we going over?
We can go over a little bit. We have fun because we still got to get to my picks.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, so this next guy got her swipe. I think because we're both on my app, it's not letting me
Yours loading slow.
Yeah.
Do you want me to take the lead on describing him while yours catches up?
You do that, and then you also send the question, and then we'll.
All right, so this guy, he's got a car selfie from the beginning, which it's not an immediate disqualifier, but it is. And then he's 39. 2 truths and a lie. 1, I played a college sport in the SEC. 2, I am left-handed. 3, I am fascinated with snakes. Also, the woman in my pictures is my mother. She must be hot if people have to ask. Okay, I think he is, he did not play a college sport because otherwise he wouldn't use the word fascinated with snakes. He would just say, I love them. Okay, another car selfie. He does look very attractive in this one. He has what looks like almost like a race car jacket, Ryder Cup. I don't know what that is. It could be golf. It's sporty. He asks, what annoying habit do you have that's actually cute? His most useless skill is hula hoop. Don't ask me why. If there was an Olympic event for this, it would be game over. I have been stupid good at hula hoop since I was 9. That is code for I can.
That's code for he can swing his hips back and forth.
Exactly. Then he has his arm around the woman. Oh, yes, who I now recognize as his mother. Otherwise, it could be an interesting intergenerational dating scenario. She is a good-looking woman. He looks delightful in it. He does not look like he's over-attached or under-attached to her.
Right.
Except that then we have another photo with the mother where she's standing with her nice good boy next to her, and they have a scene in the background of like a bridge on water, and he looks far too comfortable. I'm hoping you use your blinker. Then we've got him with his golf buddies. A review by a friend. good all-around dude, would give you the shirt off his back, but never put him on speakerphone, especially if you are around people that don't know him. And in the last picture is a giveaway photo of sorts. And he is holding a beautiful, adorable, big, fluffy white dog, real dog, in a sweater, in a kitchen with a fridge in the back. And he's looking over, and the look on his face is just everything we need to know. Not that there's anything weird going on, guys, in terms of things going on with the photo and all the context involved. He just looks a little bit like a douche. Now, what do you think my flags are here, Julie, on this guy?
Well, here's my flag. This would be my flag for him. I love that sons love their mothers. I love it. However, when you're that close, it's going to prove problematic for whoever gets introduced into the mix.
Was it you that I was talking about this with? But there was somebody who said that there is an age that you hit. I wish I remembered the number. I think it's like 25, where if you uncouple from your mother, a male uncouples from their mother, by then they're going to be okay. But if they don't uncouple from their mom by then, it's lifelong. There's some kind of psychological thing out there. I don't know how scientific this is, guys. But I mean, I kind of believe it. I mean, if you're like,
that'd be interesting to find. And I'm sure it's flipped with daughters and dads. I'm sure it's the same.
But you know, that is so much more rare, especially these days because of the creep factor. It's so much more rare that a young woman is like, really, what is that called? The Greek word for the boy and his mother.
Well, the one Oda is that the
Oedipus syndrome? Yes. It's not that, but what is interesting is that in this second photo with her, it's clearly the same night. They're both in the same outfit. They both have a city view in the background on the water. I don't know what city that is. And she has this very cute LBD and then some gold bracelets. And then she has like black pantyhose that are kind of see-through. And she just looks really dolled up. And he had to clarify for us that it was his mom. So I don't know why we needed it back.
I mean, I do think it's his mom.
No, it's definitely his mom. I'm just saying, like,
but it's very like, and actually, when you look at the two pictures, he is wearing the same shirt and tie in both pictures.
Well, and she's wearing the same dress. It's the same night.
So why do you here's my thing, though. You get on the Hive, you get to put 4 pictures. So why would 2 of your pictures be with your mom?
Why do we have her legs on one of them? Anyway. All right. Let's, are we going to reach out?
And the sad thing is he's got a great smile. I like his smile.
He looks nice overall. Just between that and the end photo with the sort of like smug look. All right. Choose your question. We got to play with him anyway, though. It's loading. Okay. While I'm doing this, do you want to queue up the next guy?
Yeah. So the next guy, while you're looking at that, this guy doesn't have a bio at all, which typically you would say, absolutely 100% gutter swipe. All of his pictures actually also are him in travel mode. And a lot of women that are on dating apps today would be skeptical that he's even a real person. All of his photos look very AI without being AI. They're not. But like in his last photo, going from the bottom to the top, he's got his arm extended and he's pouring champagne into like a mimosa, but he's raising his hand up and doing it from like up here. So you can see this long pour. And then there's like this bountiful spread on the table.
Oh yeah, I had to abandon the other thing and jump in here. Yes, that is, yeah.
And then in the next one, he's on vacation. He's in a boat with a bunch of seats, and it's got like a canvas top. And in the background, you can see various tourists splashing around in water. It almost, the first time I saw it, it reminded me of Tel Aviv. I don't know if you've ever been there. I've never been to Tel Aviv, but a lot of the pictures I see, that's what it reminds me of. And he does have this kind of ethnic
He's got sunglasses on.
look. And then the third photo, he's just on a beach. It's a close-up. He is straining because of the sun to see into the camera. And then his last photo is another bountiful spread on a table, and he's got this Indiana Jones type hat on and this blue chambray, very loose fitting shirt, and it's snowing behind him. So these photos look very like manufactured for a reason, and it makes him just look like he is either a GQ model or he wants you to think that he lives this elaborate.
I think he might be a catfish, and I would like to find out. I would love to catch a catfish on this show.
Let's find out.
All right, so let's see if my question game loads with him faster. Okay, what conspiracy theory do you think is actually true? What's a really sexy name for someone? What are you glad your parents don't know about you? Among your friends, what are you the most known for? Okay, I'm stuck on this. What are you glad your parents don't know about you? I think that is a great question for a catfish.
Okay. And
what is your answer to that, Julie?
Well, I used to, because, you know, they don't change the questions in the Hive a lot. So when you're trying to use other, oh, by the way, I finally got through on the other guy and I just said, hey, great smile. And that's a big dog. My answer for this one usually is that I'm kinky, but my parents know that I'm kinky. So, that's not, well, I mean, and I feel like it opens up the door for them to be sexually grossed back. And so that's not my answer anymore for that one. I don't even know what I'd say.
Okay, do we want to do a different question then, or do you want to keep thinking about it?
No, I kind of want to keep thinking about it.
Yeah. Because I want to know what he has to say. When you get into the conversation with him, if he's a catfish, he's going to engage with you. He might not put his sentences together properly. There's probably some kind of sob story that's going to end up happening. And also, you're going to get potentially conflicting details about what's going on with his family situation and his background, and or a very compelling and specific story.
Okay, so what do you think my answer should be?
I'm glad your parents don't know about you. Well, do you have any kinds of like secret thoughts or like any kinds of like that I have plans to take over the world or something like that? I mean, I know you don't, but something along those lines. It's almost
I'm just gonna put sometimes I'm a daredevil at heart. Because I totally want to be like,
right. And no mom wants to be worried about their kid, falling off a cliff with a gutter swipe.
Right. With a gutter, or being trapped in a car during DoorDash.
I'm so glad that didn't work out for you.
Oh, I'm glad that didn't work.
Okay. So did you deal with the other guy? You sent him a message. It's not landed yet on my side over here, but that's because there's always.
So the other guy, the message I sent was great smile, and that's a really big dog. Which is not, we didn't do a question. I just made it generalized.
No, that sounds great. And also, we'll see how he responds to the big dog thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to load I want to give you at least one
good pick.
One good pick, but of course, here we go. You got to go all the way down.
Because we are going over it, and it's okay. And you know what I say, we're 9 minutes over. This is what I say. It's my show. And we usually try and stay under the hour mark, and people either stick with us and watch it, or they won't, or they'll listen tomorrow, or they won't, or they'll get busy, or they won't. Like, have you heard that whole movement right now? Let them, right? Kermit the Frog. We've talked about Kermit before on here. Kermit, haven't heard from him weeks, but Kermit always says, let them. And he was like, do you know about that movement? And I said, what's that movement about? And he goes, if people are going to do it, they're going to do it. You let them. So if they're going to listen, they're going to listen. If they're going to watch, they're going to watch. If they decide after an hour, these two broads are boring, they're going to leave. Let them.
I love it. All right. So those of you who are still with us, this man is a chef. He has a baseball cap, like a Florida tan. It's very specific. You have to be there to know. Great eyes. He says about me, free spirit, flowing where life takes me, more caring, understanding, and patient as each day passes. You're going to hate this. Bear with me. My daughter above all, then the beach. One love. Okay. He's 5'11". He works out sometimes. He's a Pisces, which obviously I am, so I have a preference towards. Trade school, never smokes. He's looking for a relationship. He's not sure if he wants kids. He's a foodie. He loves beaches. He has ambition and confidence, or these are his interests, his ambition and confidence and being family oriented. Then there's a sort of like Magic Mike-like kind of like expression that's going on, but it doesn't disqualify him. It looks really nice and genuine. He has a backwards baseball cap. And this one, it's close up. He's probably wearing a black backpack in the jungle. Tattoos look like they're involved. Oh no, maybe he's like at an adventure, like a safari park. I don't know. If I could travel to any time in the past, I would start from the beginning and do it all over again, exactly the same way. It has made me who I am today. So he wants to be born again. So then another backwards baseball cap. I hope his hair was just recently washed and is not greasy. There's enough for a man bun. It's not in a man bun. And then another one where he has like a picture of a man grilling something. I don't know what that means, but on his t-shirt, looking real cute. Something I have learned way later than I should have. It's for all intents and purposes, not for all intensive purposes. Another really cute, soulful picture with the backwards baseball cap. Perfect first date. Ends with me making you breakfast. And then a dot, and then I don't know why he has the sideways smiley face, which to be honest, I think should be just deleted from, all human histories of communications. It's a useless sign. And then he has the little like man with the question hands. And then another selfie that looks like it could be a giveaway for a gutter swipe, but I don't think so. I think this man is very soulful. I don't think he's like the hubby that's going to provide for you forever, but I think he might be a really nice person to spend some time with.
All right, send him.
Okay. I'm going to give you a whole video just because I'm attached to him.
So for those that are like trying to figure out Rebecca's MO when she's picking, during the week, she will send me gutter swipes. She also, this is what's kind of interesting. She'll send me gutter swipes during the week. And then she'll put like this whole like paragraph together about each of the gutter swipes. And then she'll be like, and what is this guy's problem? And oh my God, look at this guy. One of the gutter swipes she sent me this week, I kid you not, kids. I kid you not, kids. He was in a house where the inside was decorated in like all the old like gold Baroque furniture from like the 1970s, but it looked like, like stuff you'd find in Russia. And there were these like really long floor to ceiling red drapes. And honestly, in looking at the picture, because I'm all about the details, you can tell it's a modern house, but it had all these old world decor aspects. And then he's standing. So somebody had to take the photo for him. He is standing in the middle of the room, looking down at his phone, and he's wearing this oversized, fuzzy, plush
velvety
robe that matched the drapes and had a long train on it. And she was like, "This is your gutter swipe." And I was like, what the hell is that? What the hell is that?
Well, and that guy was attractive. Sometimes I send you ones that are just your entertainment for the day, which are like absolutely absurd. And he fell into both. He was a Venn diagram.
He was a what?
He was in the Venn diagram, the middle of the two overlapping circles,
Oh.
Right? I thought you might like this guy.
Hi, Danny.
He totally has Magic Mike vibes, right? But like in a sweeter way.
Yeah, just said his name.
No, you just made that up. We're going to call him Magic Mike. Everyone just edit back a couple seconds. Can we like him? Well, okay, do you see flags? Because I'm a little bit blinded by his deer eyes.
I mean, he's got beautiful eyes.
He really does. They're so sensitive.
And one of his, yeah, I kind of see flags. So we're going to talk about this a little bit. My roommates, who I love and adore, they tell their adoptive son this all the time as they're trying to, and look, dating is being judgy. That's what dating is. Like, you're judging your future. And on some level, I try and just be open to everybody, but that's really hard when you can't be like that with everybody. And so my roommates tell their son all the time, you have kind of like gutter swipes, right? They say that you have balcony people and basement people.
Okay, he might be a basement person.
And just in looking at him and just kind of looking at his whole picture as a whole, he comes across kind of as basement-y. And even my friends are like, you need to quit digging in the basement. And I'm like,
okay, but he's like a cozy basement at your grandmother's, and you can hang out there for a little bit. No, let's use you're growing muscles. This is a test, Julie. I'm actually testing you. So we're gonna X out of him.
We're gonna X out.
Oh, good for you. I feel like we should end on that note, honestly.
We are going to end on that note because we don't have enough time. It's not going to be an hour and 30-minute show. However, what do we want to talk about next week? And next week, let's talk about it real fast, is Sunday, I think the 15th.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So Rebecca and I are going to be having a lot of things coming up in October, and she's going back to New York for a while. So we even had talked about trying to put some shows in the bin that we can run when we're not able to go live. And I think we're coming up to some of those dates. So
next week we'll be live though, right?
Next week we will be live. Yes. Yeah. That's the goal.
Do you want to do basement? Do a basement talk? I think a lot of people by a certain age, at least past the age of 30, if you're not married yet, have probably had a basement person in their lives. And we should talk about how one can grow from that and how one needs to move on from that.
Yeah, we can do basement balcony. We can do that for sure. And maybe I'll even get one of my roommates to come on and talk about the theory behind basement balcony. Real fast at the beginning of the show, and then we can delve into that topic a little bit more. And maybe other things will happen this week. Maybe I will see Con Man before he leaves. Mm-hmm. Maybe I will get to spend more time with Mr. Pop Rocks. If you know, you know. So yeah, let's do that.
What you won't be doing is dual door dashing.
No.
If you DoorDash, it will only be alone. You're only getting Julie, folks, if you order.
That's wow.
She'll still be alive. So
you still won't be able to handle her. Okay, so on that note, let's read one more. It looks like Maribel says, thumbs up. and hearts. And so we are going to see all of our regulars next week as you join in with us. And if you're listening to us out in podcast land, thank you for doing so. And we love to hear your comments, even if you just want to pop on to this video each week and say, hey, I was listening to the podcast, would love to watch live, but hear my comments on poly or whatever else we talked about tonight. Rebecca, thanks for your time, as always. And we are going to go ahead and head out for the evening. And I got to find the outro and the intro. Bye, everybody. Join us next week as Julie has another rosé, and we talk about balcony people and basement people and where they should fall into your life.
For more content, follow justjuleigh.com. That's just Julie, JULEIGH.com. Thank you to our guests, and thank you for joining us this evening. Join us next week as Julie tries a different rosé.